Does that mean that, if I refuse, you patriarch won't show my father respect?
There's no way. Although I'm embarrassed to even say this out loud, I'm not such a childish person. So, if you refuse, I'll just feel a little regret. That's all. I will, of course, respect your choice and wish you the best of luck with your future. However, I really do hope to allow your future to shine as part of the main family.
I don't think this is an issue that I should decide by myself.
If that's the case, then let's leave it until after the banquet. I'll send messengers to Jidal and tell them to respectfully escort your father over.
Thank you so much. Earlier, you said that this would be good for my future as well. What exactly did you mean by that?
If you're fostered with the main family, there are a lot of benefits you can enjoy. Didn't you say that there weren't any nights you could go to for instruction back in Jidal? But at our main estate, you won't need to worry about that. After all, we have a lot of excellent nights here.
If I'm going to learn from anyone, I want to learn from the best. If I'm adopted by you, patriarch, will I be able to learn from you as well?
Eugene was curious to see just how strong the Lionheart clan's patriarch truly was.
Of course, I'll be able to teach you. However, if you want to learn from the very best, then there's someone even better than me.
Who is that?
It's Kion. In the past, my skills were better than his, but currently that's no longer the case. Have you received instruction on your family's mana training scripture from your father?
I told my father that I didn't want to learn it yet. If I needlessly learned it beforehand, I felt like I might accidentally start training my mana without even meaning to.
So that was the case. After all, you're so diligent that you haven't neglected your training even once during your entire stay here.
Crystals of mana could be found in the bodies of higher-leveled monsters. These aggregations of mana were called mana stones. When first initiating mana, the assistance of these mana stones could not be neglected. Gerhard's household probably doesn't have enough money to afford any mana stones. On top of that, for initiates to get the most benefit out of mana stones, they needed someone with outstanding abilities to guide them. That was why he couldn't help but feel regret. The boy had already proven his excellence, but Gerhard's household was too poor to allow Eugene's talent to bloom. However, Gilead absolutely couldn't allow such words to leave his lips. Gilead didn't want his careless words to cause a son to turn against his father and the family he was born to. Instead of Eugene, this was something that he needed to discuss with Gerhard. Time flowed quickly as they touched on various topics.
I'll call someone to escort you over soon, so please wait a little longer.
It's fine. You don't need to do that. It's not like the annex is that far from here. I'm fully capable of walking back alone.
As he was walking down the corridor to the stairs, he sensed that someone was sneakily lying in wait for him on the other side of the hallway. It was Ancilla. She was attempting to stage this as an accidental meeting, but Eugene wasn't surprised in the least. He had been able to notice Ancilla while she was still hiding out of sight, thanks to the scent of her perfume.
Oh my. It's Eugene, isn't it?
As she turned the corner, Ancilla fluttered her eyelashes in surprise. Eugene felt a strange pressure emanating from behind her kind smile and overly sweet tone. So, for now, Eugene decided to test her intentions.
Yes, good evening, madam. My name is Eugene Lionheart of Jidal.
I heard that you and the Patriarch were having a private conversation, but it looks like the two of you chatted for quite a while. I didn't know that you were still here.
Is there something you wish to speak to me about?
His arrogance is already skyrocketing. Though she could understand why. It must already be quite exciting for such a country bumpkin to visit the main estate. On top of that, he had even managed to defeat a child from the main family in a duel on his very first day, and then went on to win the bloodline continuation ceremony. She secretly wanted to crush his arrogantly upturned nose, but Ancilla firmly held back this urge. There's no need to make an enemy out of him in advance. That was why she had allowed Ciel to stick to Eugene's side. Ancilla thought that the idea of ensnaring Eugene and Ciel into an arranged marriage was actually quite a promising plan for the future.
Because it was a private conversation between the Patriarch and me, I'm afraid I can't tell you.
Oh, right. Of course. I didn't mean to put you on the spot, so please don't feel pressured. Besides that, there were actually a few other things I wanted to talk to you about.
Eugene simply tilted his head silently in question.
Well, Wasn't Cyan very rude to you just a few days ago? I should have already apologized to you personally. But as the bloodline continuation ceremony was just ahead of us, things were out of control, and my apology was delayed.
There's no need for that. I had already reconciled whatever problems I had with Cyan.
Oh my, for a child your age, you sure are mature and broad-minded. As for Cyan, I will give him a strict warning, so I hope that the two of you will get along with each other from now on.
Of course, I will try my best. After all, we do share the same name, so ultimately, aren't we all part of the same family?
Ancilla's face twisted into a complex expression. He said that they were part of the same family? Although he wasn't wrong, for some reason, when the word family dropped from that irritating boy's lips, she couldn't help but feel uncomfortable.
Would you mind if I take my leave now?
Yes, that's fine. Sorry for holding you back.
Ancilla said with a slight smile as she patted Eugene on the shoulder. What an irritating brat, she thought to herself. Eugene didn't know for certain what kind of personality Ancilla was hiding behind that smile. However, looking at the harassment she had authorized for him on that very first day, she obviously had quite a cruel streak. As such, he didn't want to needlessly get involved with her. 2 days later, Gerhard Lionheart arrived from distant Giddel. The patriarch's own younger brother, Keon, had personally accompanied Gerhard to the main estate. So, Eugene really won this year's bloodline continuation ceremony? My son did that? Truly? My son. He really defeated the children of the main family. Gerhard felt like he was about to start crying. It wasn't like he hadn't held any expectations for Eugene. His son had always been out of the ordinary, ever since he was young. He had thought that the bloodline continuation ceremony would force Eugene to see the reality of his situation. After all, defeat was still inevitable. It should not have been possible to overcome the gap that existed between the direct line and the collateral lines by innate talent and hard work alone, but…
Father!
My son, Eugene.
The moment he saw his son, Gerhard forgot all propriety as tears began pouring down his face. Gerhard pulled his son into an embrace as he continued to shed tears.
I'm so proud of you. The fact that you're my son makes me so proud.
I told you that I would send you good news, didn't I? Did you really not believe me?
That's right. You did say that, didn't you, my son? I'm so sorry for not believing in you.
Hey now, what's with the apologies again? If I were in your place, I wouldn't have believed it either.
In front of him stood Gilead Lionheart.
Apologies for the late greeting. My name is Gerhard Lionheart, and I hail from Giedal.
I am Gilead Lionheart. Please forgive my rudeness of inviting you in such haste.
What rudeness? I don't consider it that way at all. In fact, I am extremely grateful that you have invited me like this.
I don't want to take up too much of your time with your son, but if it is okay with you, would you mind coming inside with me for a short conversation?
Of course, that's fine with me. You're talking about an adoption?
That's right. If Eugene were to be adopted, you, Lord Gerhard, will also be accepted into the main family. I know that this offer comes as a shock.
I mean no disrespect with what I am about to say next. For showing such high regard for my son's potential and consideration for my own feelings, I offer you my deepest gratitude. However, as a father, I can't help but be worried for my son's future.
Worried about what exactly?
Even though your intentions are well-meaning and honest, I am worried that others within the main family might persecute Eugene. You have 3 children. If my son is adopted into your family, no matter the reason for his adoption, won't he be treated as an unwelcome outsider?
I understand what you're trying to say, but the main family values its traditions. So even if Eugene was adopted into the main family, succeeding in my position as the patriarch would be very difficult. As long as that boy, Eugene, doesn't let his greed drive him, he will be able to freely display his talents with the help of the main family. As long as he doesn't hold any ambitions of becoming the patriarch, Eugene will be able to build up a friendship with my children, as they will all become siblings once he is adopted into the main family. Their relationships will open up many more opportunities and possibilities for Eugene in the future.
I suppose that would be the case? I don't believe this is something I can decide by myself. I think it's time for me to have a conversation with my son.
Gerhard looked as if someone he knew had just died. Eugene lowered his sword as he spotted Gerhard walking over with a strange expression on his face.
Father, what's with the expression?
The sword his son was holding made his shoulders fall once more. It was the storm sword Winyed. He had heard the whole story from Kion about how his son had chosen the sword personally as a gift from the main family's treasure vault. Even if he sold off all the property that Gerhard's family had accrued over the years, he still wouldn't be able to afford a sword like that.
Son, the patriarch of the main family has offered to adopt you.
I already knew about that. He discussed it with me earlier.
And I would like for you to become his child, for your future's sake. But you may have to face many difficult things later on.
Probably, but father, so what if there are? I'll be fine no matter what happens. Can't you see, father? I will never let anyone get the better of me.
Your name is Eugene, the name given to the son of Gerhard Lionheart. Your name was... Both your late mother and I chose it together for you. Never forget this fact.
Even if we are adopted into the main family, my real father who raised me from birth is and always will be Gerhard Lionheart.
In the end, it looks like I'm getting adopted. Although it seems like things will be a bit bothersome, there will be many things I can wring benefits from, so it'll be worth it in the end. Eugene held no desire to become the Lionheart clan's patriarch, although he didn't know what might happen later, if he needlessly showed any signs of ambition for the Posey, especially the main wife, Theonis, and the second wife, Ancilla. Those two would have no choice but to try and keep Eugene in check. They'll definitely have a lot of injunctions and restraints placed on me. He could just try ignoring them, or to confront them head-on. The banquet to conclude this year's bloodline continuation ceremony was held that very night. You really have raised a wonderful son. I heard that he will be adopted into the main family. What type of training did your boy do? I heard from my son that your boy's strength is really impressive for his size. Even the main family doesn't have our house's revolutionary muscle growth agent. Are you interested in trying some? It's quite serendipitous that we were all able to meet like this. So I think that from now on, we should continue to arrange events where members from the different collateral lines can mingle and get to know each other. Gerhard was surrounded by the adults from the other collateral families and was busy chatting about this and that. Among these adults, the parents of Gargith and Desra were especially eager to talk to Gerhard.
Looks like I will get unwanted attention if I join them, especially from Grajith's father.
Stand up straight. From now on, you will constantly be compared to that child. The first thing that everyone will remember when they see you is that you've lost a duel to Eugene. They will also laugh at the fact that you were partially responsible for the main family's first recorded defeat in the bloodline continuation ceremony. This is something that cannot be helped. Cyan, you are allowed to feel ashamed, but you must not be discouraged. No matter how many people mock you, you must remember that you are my son and in line to inherit the seat of the Lionheart clan's patriarch.
Yes, Mother. I'll do my best.
There is no way that Eugene can become the patriarch. However, Cyan, don't allow yourself to relax just because of that fact, because you never know what the future might have in store. Since you have so many disadvantages compared to him, you need to work even harder to become the patriarch. Still, there's no need to needlessly make an enemy of Eugene and be his friend.
Because we'll be brothers from now on.
That's right. Make sure to build up a brotherly connection to him. Make it strong enough that that child will become your strength in the future. Treat him as an equal. As you play together and train together, make it so that one day that boy will be willing to assist you.
Yes, Mother. Now I need to be friendly with him. How exactly do I become friendly with him?
My father told me that we'll be siblings from now on. I've only ever had Cyan and Iode as brothers, but now, suddenly, a new little brother has appeared.
Little brother? As if you are older than me by a few months, so how can I allow you to call me your little brother?
I was born 5 seconds later than my brother, but I'm still his little sister.
This and that are a little different.
Can't you just call me Big Sis even once?
Not even if my life was on the line.
Call me Big Sis just one time. It's not like it's a hard thing to do. If you keep acting like this, Big Sis will have to punish you.
I'd rather die.
After all, how could he call a 13-year-old brat his big sis?
I am not going to take you as my disciple right away. The Red Tower of Magic, of which I am the master, specializes in summoning magic among all the various types of magic. As such, you must first go to Arath and take the systematic aptitude test to see if you fit our specialty.
But what if I do have an aptitude for summoning magic?
If that's the case, then it's a joyous discovery. But in Arath, your identity as an heir to the Lionheart clan won't grant you any leeway. Unless you have enough talent to silence all the other wizards' protests, I cannot take you as my disciple.
I understand.
While Arath won't show any special treatment to those who bear the Lionheart name, I am Gilead's old friend before I was the head wizard of the Red Tower. With my resources, I will be able to provide you with many opportunities, and I will also be able to protect you from the voices claiming unfair discrimination. This is all to provide you with the best environment to train the magic that matches your aptitude.
Even if he couldn't become Lobarian's disciple right away, the fact that he could leave his family behind and escape to another country and learn magic. He turned to look at Theonis and Gilead with timid eyes.
This is something you should decide by yourself. There's no need to be concerned about me. If you want to go, then go.
Father.
This is an opportunity your father has worked hard to grant you. Receive it with gratitude. After all, from an early age, you've always shown more interest in magic than you have in swords or spears. But, Iode, you must not forget, you are the first heir of the Lionheart clan. As my son, you are destined to become the patriarch of the main family. You must not forget this fact.
Theonis!
As his mother, I am only trying to encourage my son.
She didn't want to send Iode to Arath. If the eldest son, Iode, was sent to Arath, it was obvious that that damned Ancilla would go crazy with joy. However, Theonis had no choice but to send Iode to Arath. Her child hadn't inherited the qualities needed to appear suitable for such a position. He has a weak and naive nature. She hoped that by getting along with these wizards, he could create relationships that would later benefit him, thereby gaining support for his bid to become the patriarch.
You are the heir to the Lionheart clan.
Yes, Mother.
The day after the banquet, Lobarian was headed to Arath with Iode. Gargith and Desra were returning to their homes along with their parents. The annex would be solely used by Eugene and Gerhard. Today was an important day for Eugene. It was the day he would be initiating his mana for the first time since his reincarnation. All mana training scriptures began by first teaching how to sense mana, divided into two categories: the breathing techniques and the physical techniques. Breathing training techniques accumulated the mana that was dissolved into the atmosphere by breathing it in. Physical techniques accumulated this mana through the movement of the body. Neither of them was easy to learn. In his previous life, Hamel had trained his mana according to a physical technique. Later, with advice from Sienna and Vermouth, he converted his physical technique into a breathing technique. The Lionheart's mana training scripture is a breathing technique.
You're here early.
His training would take place on top of a vein of mana, a place where mana was heavily concentrated. Deep within the forest of the main estate, there was a vein of mana that only members of the main family were allowed to visit. The vein of mana wasn't naturally occurring, but instead had been formed by the Great Vermouth himself, 300 years ago. He actually created an artificial vein of mana. Vermouth really was a monster.
Are you nervous?
I'm excited.
It won't be easy, although I'll be helping you. As someone who's just started initiating their mana, you'll have to go through quite a lot of trouble first. The younger you are, the easier it is to feel it. Cyan and Ciel first initiated their mana when they were 6. It still took them around 4 days to sense the mana. Iode, didn't it take him a week? The collateral descendants usually initiate their mana when they're around your age, but it's said that it takes them around a month just to feel slight amounts of mana. But it shouldn't take you that long, because we have the Vein of Mana here, which gives you a quick and easy way to sense mana. On top of that, I'll also be helping you.
How many days do you think I'll take?
Maybe 10 days?
10 days. Ha!
As if it will take me 10 days. More like 10 minutes.
Okay, let's head on in. Sit over there in the middle. The mana training scripture that has been passed down through the direct line was inherited from our ancestry, the Great Vermouth. The collateral lines are not allowed to pass down the original scripture. The Great Vermouth had drawn a clear line between the main family and its collateral branches. The only thing that could be passed down to the descendants of the collateral lines was a poor imitation of the main family's original scripture. The White Flame Formula.
Eugene hadn't known that the name of the scripture was the White Flame Formula, but he clearly remembered the unique appearance of the mana generated by this scripture. The sparks that flew off him looked just like a lion's flowing mane.
Of course, you won't be able to learn it right away. You'll need to be able to sense mana first.
I can already feel it.
That's just an illusion.
He understood how Eugene could have come to make such a mistake. Once you got too absorbed into something, it was easy for strange delusions to arise in your head. Kion made an intangible wisp of mana move and hovered at Eugene's side, to show Eugene he can't sense mana yet.
See? It's too early for you to...
It's here.
Eugene said, pointing to his left.
The mana has gathered in this location.
Kion moved his mana once more.
Here, over there, up, and now down. How long do you want me to keep this up?
This is unbelievable.
If Eugene had been able to sense mana after 10 days with his assistance, Kion would have already called that quickly. But Eugene was so fast that it was unbelievable.
If you can already feel the mana, then we can begin right away. From now on, just focus on what is happening inside your body without getting distracted.
Yes, sir.
Kion began transmitting the White Flame Formula. Eugene closed his eyes and turned his concentration inwards. Soon, mana began flowing into his body through Kion's hands. Eugene concentrated on feeling how the mana was flowing within his body. As the mana spread throughout his body, it formed a center at his heart. The mana converged around his heart and then settled into the blood vessels connected to the heart. Kion slowly cut off the flow of mana that he was infusing into Eugene. However, the circulation of mana within Eugene's body didn't stop. Following the withdrawal of Kion's mana, this showed that Eugene was already able to independently adjust the flow of mana within his own body.
That's right. You're doing very well. This is insane.
Kion wasn't the only one feeling astonished. Eugene was also surprised by the performance of this body that he had been reincarnated into. Because he had the memories of his past life, sensing mana wasn't difficult for him. That applied to forming the mana breathing cycle as well. There was an inevitable end to the amount of mana that this young body could absorb. After being immersed in concentration for quite some time, Eugene opened his eyes. The size of his core is also alarming. It was so large that it was impossible to believe that Eugene had just initiated his mana. If you didn't know Eugene's circumstances, the size might lead you to believe that he'd been training his mana for a few years now. It's usually much smaller than that, but...
So you really are a monster.
That's a compliment, right?
It's definitely a compliment. Well, let's start heading back. The biggest difference between the White Flame Formula and the Red Flame Formula was the former's ability to split off part of the original core to form a new core. No matter how much you developed and trained in the Red Flame Formula, in the end, you could only have a single mana core inside your body. However, when the White Flame Formula grew past a certain level, the core would split into two. In this way, the body would become able to absorb even more mana, and the split cores could resonate with each other to amplify both cores' power. Each of these cores, both the original and the one that had split off, were called stars, and the number of stars you had reached marked your progress in the White Flame Formula. The Great Vermouth, the progenitor of the Lionheart clan and creator of the White Flame Formula, had held 10 stars in his body. In the entire history of the Lionheart clan, Vermouth was the only one who had managed to reach the 10th star of the White Flame Formula. Both my brother and I are at the 6th star. Cyan, Ciel, and Iode are all at the 1st star. Although I'm not sure about Iode, the twins should reach the 2nd star after a year or so. It has taken them 8 years to reach the 2nd star.
What about me?
You'll be a lot faster than that. As long as you don't become lazy, that is.
I'll make sure to work hard.
As if Eugene would be lazy. Now that he had been reincarnated into a body that was overwhelmingly better than the one from his previous life, he didn't want such a body to go to waste out of his own slothfulness. For now, I should just focus on learning all I can about the White Flame Formula. But the 10th star? I'm not sure if I'll be able to reach it. Guess I'll have to deconstruct it as I'm learning it.
I'll explain things to the Patriarch. As for you, you must be tired, so go get a good rest.
I will do that.
Eugene had no intention of resting. Why should he rest? This kind of fatigue would get better with just a full night's sleep anyway. First of all, why don't we go have a look at my new abilities?
Master Eugene, you already returned.
Nina, go to my room and bring back Winade.
Eugene slowly took a deep breath as he drew Winyad. The mana from his core flowed into Winyad. The star revolving around his heart began to shine. The wind gradually grew stronger, turning into a violent storm. Nina jolted in surprise and was blown back further.
Could it really be? Are you really Hamel?
Is that you, Tempest?